Well, youngins, welcome back to another episode. This is old Tucker back with you, and then I've had people ask me. They said, Tucker, how'd you and your family make it growing up in these old Appalachian mountains? Well, I was born and raised here, youngins, and we made it work. We was as poor as Job's turkey, but we somehow made it work. So, I grew up here during the 1950s, and it wasn't no easy life, but it's the only one I knew. We lived in a small cabin. It was nestled deep down in the holler, where you had to pipe in sunshine, they used to say. The mountains stood tall all around us like guardians. We didn't get much sunlight during the day. It'd come up about 10 and go down about 4:30, or maybe 5 if you was lucky. My family, we didn't have much, but we made do with what we had, and that was plenty in its own way. My father was a coal miner, like a lot of these fellers around here. About all of them worked in the mines. My father was a coal miner, and his daddy was a miner too. So he'd head out before dawn every day. Had his old dinner bucket in his hand, and he wouldn't come back until the sun was a-setting. That old work was hard and dangerous, but it's steady and it kept food on the table. Most of the time, at least. There's days when the mines would shut down. They'd lay him off, or the company'd get behind and couldn't pay him what they owed him for a little while. And that's when we really had to get creative. Mom and Daddy they'd get a figure something out, make it work. And I tell you what, dear, Mama was the backbone of our family. She grew up in these mountains too, so she knew how to make something out of nothing. We had a little garden out back where she grew corn, beans, and tomatoes. Every summer we'd all pitch in. We'd work them crops and can whatever we could for them cold winter months that's a-coming. Mama could stretch a pot of soup to feed us for days. She'd add a little more water, whatever scraps we had left to make it, stretch it out there, feed us all. We also had us a few chickens. Sometimes we had us a hog or two when we was blessed. Them chickens was more valuable for their eggs than anything else, but every now and then one of them get sassy and we'd have us a roast chicken for Sunday dinner. Mommy'd cook 'em right up. And when it came time to butcher that hog, nothing went to waste. We'd salt the pork, make sausage, and Mama'd even render the fat for cooking, so we didn't waste a thing. Money was tight. Most of what we had was either homemade or handed down to us. Mama sewed our clothes from old flour sacks, and I didn't have my first store-bought pair of shoes till I was about 10 years old. But they were strong and they kept me warm in the winter, so I never minded. We didn't have electricity back then until later on, so we made do with oil lamps and a wood stove. Kept the cabin warm during those cold mountain nights. Sometimes we'd put coal in that stove. Whatever was the handiest stuff for us to have, was coal or wood. Now school, that was a luxury for many kids in our neck of the woods. But my parents there, Mommy and Daddy, made sure I went. They believed that education was my ticket to something better. They sacrificed a whole lot to keep me in school. I walked a couple of miles each way, rain or shine. I know you hear that story all the time, but it felt like it was up hills both ways. Well, I tell you what, there, mountains could get rough sometimes. So you just have to walk through them mountains the best way you could. Some days I'd stop along the way. I still remember and check them old rabbit traps I'd set the night before. If I was lucky, I'd bring home a rabbit or two, and Mommy'd make us some stew. And that's some good eating for an old boy like me back then. Neighbors helped each other out too. If someone's barn needed raising, or if family was going through hard times, folks had come together to lend each other a hand. My father taught me early on that community was our safety net. If you had something to share, even if it's just a little bit, you shared it. That's just how we got by. We didn't know no better. They wasn't no selfish people back then when I was growing up there in the holler. As I grew older, I realized just how much Mama and Daddy did for me. For all of us to make sure we got by. In some ways, we even thrived in our own way. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and they had us. And they had these mountains, which provided in ways that only those who live here can truly understand. We didn't see ourselves as poor, not really. We didn't know any better. We didn't think about being poor or not poor or nothing else. We were just us. That's all we knew. But we were rich in the ways that mattered the most to me. In this old world, we had family, we had faith, and we had the knowledge that we could make it through anything as long as we all stuck together as a team. Here we'd made it work. When I left these mountains, as a young man, I tried to find me some work in the city. I carried these lessons with me until I came back home. I wasn't gone long. These mountains just call you home. No matter where life's taken me since, I've never forgotten where I come from. I tell you what, these Appalachian mountains, they may be rugged, and they are. They can be really rugged sometimes, but they're home to me. And they wrap their arms around me and make me know I'm where I'm supposed to be. And they taught me with a little grit, a lot of heart, and the love of family, you can make it through the hardest of times. And that's about as important a lesson as you could ever learn in this old life, I reckon. I tried to pass it down to my own youngins and try to see that they pass it down to their youngins too. So, anyways, youngins, I'll tell you what, dear, I hope you enjoyed listening to this. It's just a little bit of my old life. I've lived a simple life, a long life, and a happy life. And couldn't wish you nothing but more of the same for you. I surely hope you appreciate you listening, and we'll talk at you some other time. And now, we all have yourselves a good day. God bless, and you all take care out there.